the month of June, and of course it suddenly feels like it's fall again and rainy and kind of an ugly day out there, but thank you all for joining us. I got the winter hat back on. That tells you all you need to know about the weather, right? But anyways, hope you're all having a good day out there. Hope you didn't miss us too much last week. I'm back from New York, went to my Springsteen on Broadway show, had a great time. Maybe you saw the picture I posted on Twitter. I think I put it on Twitter. If not, I'll double check and put it on there during the commercial break. But it was an excellent time in New York City. And thank you all for bearing with us, and I hope you missed the show, but thank you all for bearing with us, because we did not have a show last week there on Thursday. So we are back and ready to go. We have a packed house in here today, let me tell you. We have the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam Team. Yes, a very long title. The Newburyport High School Poetry Slam Team is in the house. We have like almost the whole team in here and their coach, so should be an exciting show. They're going to do some, we're going to talk a little bit about what exactly it is they do, and we'll also have some samples for you. So this will be a very active show, which also means I'm not going to talk too long here at the beginning. We'll get them in here. I got Tyler Newfeller, one of our producers, just back from college in the house, and he's going to be doing, having a bit of a roving camera. So this is going to be kind of an active room here in about 10 minutes or so as we bring in the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam Team. Very excited about that. The big story in the news, pretty much every single Boston station was on this today. You probably heard about it. It's right up our alley because it has to do with high schools and everything. We got high school kids in the house today. So the Saugus High School kids, the seniors there that still are done with school, but still have sports, including 6 lacrosse players who happen to be playing at Pentucket today in their first state tournament game. The team for Saugus will be doing that, the lacrosse team, without those 6 seniors that got in trouble for smoking a cigar on the field after their graduation. Which is, of course, an MIAA rule that you can't do that, but this seemed so avoidable to me. It actually frustrates me like crazy, because you work so hard all year long to make the state tournament in these spring sports games, and I remember those days. I remember being a senior in high school, and you want to eat up those final state tournament games and try to keep winning and make it last for as long as you can, and now these kids, for something that's really kind of silly, and there is some blame on the kids here, obviously. I also think the teachers and the teachers, administrators, the school officials too really need to take some blame here, because if they were going to enforce this rule, I will tell you that I had a cigar on the football field of my high school graduation. I don't even smoke, but I remember holding a cigar for pictures, and I think this is something that I would have got in trouble for today that I did not back then. I still had spring sports to play when I was a senior and I had graduated, and I feel very badly for those high school seniors at Saugus who now cannot play in their state tournament game, and because of something like that. And pretty much every graduation I go to, I don't know if it's still the same these days. I haven't been to one in a while, but I remember for a time it seemed like that was a thing that everybody was doing after graduation, at least big groups of people. And these pictures that emerged of these kids in Saugus were there were parents around, there were teachers around, there were school officials, all just kind of walking around shaking hands with these kids, and the kids didn't think anything of it. Obviously a lot of the teachers and officials there didn't think anything of it at the time, but now in the end it is a big deal, and it is a lead story on all the Boston news stations on a Tuesday here in June that 6 kids are in trouble for this. So I think it's a story that annoyed a lot of people because it sounds a little bit silly and something that just bugs a lot of people. But I guess rules are rules, and it's tough to go back on them now. But I don't know. I'm annoyed by it. And I feel bad for those high school seniors in Saugus. So I had some friends of mine get in trouble. The lacrosse team too. I guess it's something in the lacrosse waters. But I had some friends get in trouble right around this time before their state tournament game when I was in high school. And they still talk about it to this day. It's amazing. It still bugs those guys now that they're adults. So I'm sure it'll bug these Saugus kids for many, many years to come. And it's just too bad. I feel badly for them. But that's it. We'll leave it at that. We'll move on to brighter notes here in just a moment. We got the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team in the house, ready to go. One other story I did want to touch on. How about President Trump not allowing the Eagles to the White House today? Very interesting. Did not really see that one coming. I figured he would just deal with the 10 players that were going to show up, but he has decided to disinvite the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat your New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl at their White House visit today, which of course is another monster story, as President Trump not happy with the anthem controversy. The Eagles players, none of the Eagles players even took a knee during the anthem this year, but a bunch of players were in solidarity with that movement. We're not going to go, not happy with President Trump's bashing of the NFL in recent months over that, and the president said, fine, if you want to be upset with the anthem controversy, then we will disinvite you. I think he was a little bit worried about there being such few numbers there, such few Eagles representatives at the White House, but I don't know, just another crazy story. Seems like something's always happening there at the White House these days, but that was the big story today. Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, by the way, keeping it on the football field, have both arrived at training camp today, so all is good in the world there in Foxborough. So those are the headlines for a busy Tuesday afternoon in June. I'm going to get out of the way here. In just a moment, we'll bring in the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team. Very excited about this. Should be a very active show. Thank you for coming on back here on a Tuesday afternoon in June. My name is Drew Moholland. It's Afternoon Drive on Joppa Radio. Keep it here. We'll be right back.
you dreaming? The choice is always ours to make. Are you awake or sleeping? Pray to God to give us light and to walk beside us as we leap on faith into the night, with just the stars to guide us. And if you look into the night sky, you can see the Big Dipper shining. And if you open up your mind's eye, you can see my reflection. And if you can touch the place where time and space are mere illusion, you'll know that tomorrow always comes. Tomorrow always comes. Tomorrow always comes.
All right, welcome on back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. A happy Tuesday afternoon to all of you out there. So we have a packed house, as you can see there. We were trying to shuffle around during the break. We have the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team in here, and why don't I get the camera on them? They can all wave when I say their name. We have Coach Deb Sabo, sorry. There's the coach, Carolyn Tiernan. Hello, Carolyn. Molly LaLiberty. Julia Olson, hello, and Jack Chambers. Very scary, Jack. Very good. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
It's quite a name, the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam Team. Sounds very exciting. Who wants to take the lead here and tell me what the heck it is you guys do?
Let's take the lead.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Great. Oh, wow, this is new. Okay. So, well, we just kind of abbreviate it to like the LTAB team because we do a competition in Boston called Louder Than a Bomb. And basically what we do is we compose our own poems and then we memorize them and we try to cut them down to be under 3 minutes, and then we go and perform and compete against other schools. And there's like a prelim, semifinal, and final. So we meet we met about every week-ish.
Probably more than that.
Yeah,
Probably
honestly,
Probably
yeah.
like twice a week or so.
Yeah, as we
Twice a
got
week?
closer in to competition, we would meet a lot and just run our poems, and we also would work through Poetry Soup, which is like this really awesome opportunity that we have for poets to come in and present their work and then let us present our work. And also there was a creative writing class that Zabo does that also helped us with our process of writing our poems.
Wow, well, that sounds exciting. You seem like a very fun group. I was looking at you back there as I was going to commercial, and you're practicing, and there's clapping and loudness. It seems like fun. So who wants to? What's like the thing we don't know about this team that we should know?
Yeah, go for it.
Nothing too revealing.
You don't have to give away any major secrets. It's okay.
I think like a lot of times people have this misconception about poetry and like poetry slams and stuff like that, that it's all like sadness and like everybody's all dreary and dramatic. And there's a part to that where people talk about difficult topics and like people get emotional during their pieces. But I think it's also important for people to know that doing poetry slams and being part of this group has given all of us like such an opportunity to meet each other and learn new things about each other and just learn more about like the human experience, especially going to LTAB in Boston. We learned a lot about different people and different cultures and what it's like outside of the very bubble type nature of Newburyport.
Am I right to say you've all become friends here outside of the poetry group as well?
Yeah, no, I hate them.
For the most part. Who do you have a problem with here, Jack? Myself was his answer. Yeah, yes, take the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to like extrapolate on what Molly said, I feel like there is that like sadder side of poetry because like you're writing your feelings on a page, so you're obviously going to be really honest with it. So we get to know each other. It's an environment that we got to know each other that's very unique. So I feel like that friendship that we got to form was different than others. So I feel like that kind of answers the question about us becoming friends.
Yes, and you have
it.
excellent hair, by the way.
Thank you.
Big fan.
I like it too.
So I'm testing myself on names here. So Caroline,
Yes.
I'm doing well here so far. This is good. Caroline, so how about you? What's your favorite part of this group?
I'd say it's really cool to just like get to know different people. Like I had some classes with Julia before. I didn't really know Jack or Molly too well, and it's just been like really cool hearing, like I've been really inspired by the way you guys write, and like I've definitely used that in my own writing. And it's just like such a fun group. There's nothing really like it. And Molly's
No
a
crying in the
senior.
first few minutes there.
Yeah, Molly's a senior, so she's not going to be with us next year, but you know, we're still going to carry on. It's going to be good.
And are you, Molly? I think you're the reason why this was kind of tough to schedule, because your like lacrosse team could not lose. Is that
Yeah,
the?
Molly's like a lacrosse god.
Yeah, I'm aware of who she is.
So
You're
basically, right now my lacrosse team is 20-0. Well, yeah, we're 20-0, and
That's
we're,
all?
Well,
Yeah.
we're about to head into the state tournament, and my coach always says like, once you reach playoffs, you're 0-0, and it's kind of a new season, so it's been difficult to schedule around practices and stuff like that. So I'm really thankful that everybody kind of sacrificed stuff to make this work for me.
Yeah, well, that is very cool. Good work, team, working around her. Coach Szabo, how about for you? This must be kind of an interesting group to be a part of every day. Needless to say, yes.
Interesting is the operative word there. Yes, they're very interesting. For me, I mean, I've been teaching over 40 years, and this is hands down the most exciting thing that I do. Other than, oh, stop it.
Nice.
Other than Poetry Soup, you know, they're all connected, as Julia said, teaching creative writing, doing Poetry Soup, where kids come together once a month and share their poetry. And Louder Than a Bomb, if people don't know about it, I would urge everybody to go right to Netflix. There is a film called Louder Than a Bomb. It started in Chicago way before people thought that youth had anything to say. And the whole purpose of it really was to give youth a voice for
Wow.
spoken word, for kids to say what was really on their minds. And some of the originators in Chicago came here to Boston and started it in Boston in 2012. And as soon as I heard it was starting in Boston, we jumped right on the bandwagon.
Was this kind of? Did you spearhead this? Did you
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
start? You did.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So
oh, yeah.
this is your little baby
No,
here.
it's my baby. Yeah. Well, it's not my baby. I knew some of the speakers who I had already enlisted to come to Poetry Soup turned out to be the people who brought Louder Than a Bomb to Boston.
Gotcha.
And it's been great because sometimes, especially the group poem,
Yeah.
because kids sing, how can four of us write one poem, right? Isn't that what everyone thought? And then everybody argues, not argues, they discuss. they
Topic about my hair.
yes, get off topic.
You're all going to see this, by the way. We will write this group poem. We're going to get to see this a little later on. All right.
Didn't it turn out to be it turned out to be my favorite thing, do you think?
Yeah, it was definitely the best thing.
It's amazing. And you realize what a group of people can do when they collaborate and
Yeah.
come together, which is incredibly cool.
Especially young people. Do you guys ever get sick of each other out there? I mean, there's going to be a point where, especially when you're talking like poetry, like it's some of it can be frustrating just writing yourself. Never mind when you're trying to work with other people every day, right?
That's very true.
No, you can't.
I don't know if this is where it's a little bit awkward.
You're a little
but,
off. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll adjust.
So, obviously, I think like I don't want to be like that cheesy person that's like, oh no, we're not just friends, we're family. But like we do act like family. I mean, we're very close because you know like when you get to. When you share like that deeper side that not a lot of people, you know, like see of you during poetry with people, like all of a sudden you become very close. But also we bicker like siblings in a good way. We just all, you know.
It's more bantering.
It
than
is
bickering.
banter. It is banter.
Jack is back there nodding his head. Yep.
Yeah, Jack is the likes to start the banter. Yeah. So there's that.
He's an instigator.
He's an instigator, yes. But oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Molly's a senior. What grades are you guys?
We're all sophomores.
Sophomores. Oh,
Actually,
okay.
it was all of our first year doing LTAB. So we were kind of like rookies. Like
Wow.
we showed up. Everyone's been doing it for years, but Actually, we didn't make it onto semifinals.
We did not do extremely well.
No, but also, I would say that our first, we had 2 bouts, and it's kind of like, since it's slam poetry, the judges aren't real poets. They're just like people on the street, like people who got like someone's grandma or someone's whatever, and it was hard because it depends on like who you get for your bout. It's really kind of up in the air, and I would say our second bout definitely had people who were more interested in listening to the poetry more so than the topic. I think that was something that a lot of people got tripped up on, like regardless if the writing was very skilled writing or very basic writing. If it was like a topic that somebody related to, that was like an automatic higher score. But we got to see like a ton of amazing poets, and also we placed last in our second bout, but both of the coaches came up to us. Okay, but I'm not talking about the first bout. In the second bout, both of the coaches came up to us actually and talked about our group poem and said like, wow, you guys really, I think you guys deserved to go on for that group poem. And we were so fortunate to get like positive feedback from other coaches.
Well, that's cool. Julie, you were nodding your head during some of that. Jump in. What were you going to say? You were nodding your head during... Go ahead, just rip that mic over.
So LTAB competition, it was 2 days long, and so the first day it was kind of, we were all really nervous because we really didn't know what to expect going into it. I mean, I for one was insanely nervous because, I mean, my poem was actually about like being nervous about public speaking. It's always something I kind of struggled with until this year. And so by the second day, I feel like we had all kind of knew what to expect, so it was a lot easier. And then the people who were in charge of our group like kind of did a lot of group activities and stuff, so we had like a lot better energy going into it, and I feel like we all definitely performed a lot better on the second day.
You were nervous about public speaking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Very comfortable for that. Very good.
I think one of the things that
you are not nervous about public speaking. I can pretty much tell that right off the bat.
I love public speaking, actually.
Very comfortable in front of the microphone.
Yeah. I think one of the things that kind of just wraps up Julia's sentiment is that the slogan of LTAB is "the point is not the points, the point is the poetry."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, which is kind of awesome because, yeah, obviously it would have been cool to win and whatever, but just the experience was honestly amazing, getting to share our poems, getting to listen to the other poems that other people had to share. It was really awesome.
Very cool. And yes, Coach?
I feel like I need to say one thing to clarify about slam poetry because everybody may not realize this, but it originated in bar rooms. And the idea was to bring poetry back to the people, sort of the way it was in Homer's day, because poetry has become like such an academic thing. And so the judges, and that's what Julia was alluding to, the judges are not poets. Yeah. And the results may have been different if the judges were poets, who knows. But
you're saying she wasn't complaining about the officiating, is what you're saying.
No. Not only... No, well...
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
A little bit. Well, not only that, but I'm saying if the judges had been poets, they clearly would have won.
Oh, very nice. You have the support of Coach Szabo. That's fantastic.
But as everybody's saying, the idea is really just to express yourself, to listen to other people, to hear... It's a very diverse group of kids, and they get to all listen to each other, and they do a lot of group building exercises.
Well, that is cool. So there you go. For the middle schoolers out there thinking about joining, you now see it's cool.
There was one middle school team actually this year.
And how about that? Mm-hmm. How were they? Any good? You get to watch them?
We didn't get to see them.
We saw a little.
We saw a little bit. Yeah.
I didn't see.
It was very brave of them to get up there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do this. So you guys both have individual poems that you wanted to do too. So I want to make sure we get to those. What do you say we do those before we take our first break here? So I think what we should do is, Molly, I think your seat's probably the prime seat. So let's get who's ever going to do the individual poem in there so we can do some juggling. Jack, you want to go first?
All right.
You've been standing the whole time. We'll call on you first.
Should we just move him here?
Yeah, just you guys probably move around quite a bit. You guys could still sit with him and stuff for support. You don't all have to.
Yeah, he was first.
All right, so this is. So this is Jack Chambers here. Jack, a sophomore.
What's up?
What does that make you? How old are you as a sophomore?
I'm 16.
16?
Yeah.
All right.
Can I pull this down?
You can do whatever you want.
Don't tell Jack that.
Yep. Coach Szabo says, do not tell Jack that. Okay.
I'm just going to stand up.
You're going to stand?
Easier.
I usually stand too. I'm feeling like I'm in a sitting mood.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not sure why. But all right. So let's just see here. So you get the... You look good. And what are we going to call this poem, Jack?
Oh, shoot. It's called Art Institute.
Can I get you to sit, actually? Can as I tell you can do anything, and then I immediately tell you can't?
Yeah, this is awkward. All right, this works.
You gonna be all right? You comfortable? You sure?
This is cool.
We won't go until you're ready. All right, so this is Jack Chambers, sophomore at Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team, the first member to read his individual poem here on Joppa Afternoon Drive. Take it away, Jack.
All right, so this poem's called Art Institute. I have a dream to be an artist. I've wanted to be an artist since I was the smallest in the room, since I was a little dude running around with a pen and a pad of paper. Even then I knew I was destined to be a musician or a painter or an illustrator. And now I think I die without that part of me. It's impossible to stomp out my creativity. Still, it's illogical to make a career path out of pen and paper is what I have understood since I was a 7th grader, because they say, hey, Art Institute's a foolish investment. Unfortunately, I find myself hell-bent on art. It's a part of me, but it's absurd for me to think that I should follow my heart because my parents ain't been investing for me with the cash on art. No. Shoot.
You got it.
Ah, this has been so long.
All from memory, too.
Damn it.
It's a good preview.
Yeah, that's a preview.
That's a preview.
Thank you.
Very good. You were rolling there for a minute. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I genuinely do not remember the next part, like, at all. It's like, oh.
The artists that work here, you can see how they work things out. What's the name of that one, Jack?
That's called Art Institute.
Art Institute.
Yeah, that's like a third of it. There's 2 more big portions. But
where'd you get the name?
I don't know. I was just like, I think I was like, mostly when I write, it's like really, really late at night. I'm just not, like, that's the only real state I can get in to write. Otherwise, it just doesn't turn out that well. And I don't know where I got the idea, but like obviously it's something I feel.
Exactly.
Like I've wanted to be an artist for a long time, and that's what the poem is about.
All right, so there's the preview of Art Institute.
Yeah.
You want to pass out to one of your teammates, and if you want to come back and finish it up, feel free. Who's jumping in next?
I mean, I don't think I'm going to present mine, but I can talk about it.
The next member of the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team is going to be Caroline Tiernan. Hello, Caroline.
Okay. So,
Very good.
I wrote this back in like March when we were doing LTAB and rehearsing and stuff, so I'm actually gonna need to look at it a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. Do whatever you gotta do.
It's actually about, we had this project in school where we were supposed to memorize a poem, and I went up to do it in front of the classroom.
And you had to memorize it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was a poem by somebody else. So you kind of like look at it, like pick out diction, like ways you're gonna like present it to make it like match the tone of the poem.
Gotcha.
So during the poem, I actually forgot, and yeah, so it's kind of ironic that I ended up having to memorize this. So this is
Gotcha.
called A Loss for Words.
A Lost for Words. Again, it's Caroline Tiernan.
With a great deal of anxiety and hesitation, I trudged to the front of class to perform my recitation of a wondrous poem, of a glorious poem much better than the ones I come up with on my own. I coughed, for my voice was a tad raspy, and with every student glaring right at me, I stood there, breathed deeply. I was ready. I softened my gaze, my eyes began to glaze, and in that perfect moment I knew every phrase. I sang out each line like the chorus of a song, the words flowed fiercely, and none of them were wrong. My lips were moving effortlessly, but my heart started pounding frantically when suddenly, inexplicably, in an instant, nothing came to me. Those words I was assigned to speak slithered out of my reach like slimy snakes snickering at me. My knees became so weak, my mind was blank. Solid white like Untitled Document 64, empty is the bottom of an unused drawer, vacant like the sky at the peak of a hike. In that moment I thought, is this what dying is like? Is dying when you suddenly find cold numb legs and an empty mind, feeling as though you're falling behind with the composure you've worked so hard to build, finally unwinds. Who would have thought that this failed recitation would turn into a frantic resuscitation of my reputation as somebody well-spoken? Because I am well-spoken. And when I speak the words that I want to speak, my tongue is no longer broken. When I tell the stories that I care about, the ones torn from the knotted strings of my heart, that is when my shell comes apart. That is when I finally depart from the silence of that classroom. Away from the uncomfortable chairs and their heartless stares and the beige-colored desks squished together in pairs, I am on a new planet as far in the sky as the eye can see, no longer plagued with anxiety, and the words that slip out of my lips finally belong to me. The truth is, there are so many things I care about. Innocent people getting shot, innocent names being forgot, everyday wars are waging, the climate is changing, and everything will be staying the same unless I speak out, unless we speak out. So I am done with holding my tongue. I am done with years of mindless memorization and graded recitation and the oversimplification of ideas that should not be condensed. And I will keep trying my best to express the endless problems swirling inside. And I know we all have stories inside. We need to stand up and speak our minds. So let's stand up and use our voice. And let the words we share be our own choice. Thanks.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So, Caroline, you had a fear of public speaking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did this group help you get over it, or did you?
I would say so,
that?
yeah. I'm also involved with theater, so I think that's also been a big part in, like, overcoming being, like, shy and all that.
Yes, you were, like, very well spoken. So I do
Thank
wonder
you.
how, I mean, if anybody can see that on their own, what is your advice to somebody? Because so many people battle that, and it's, like, the #1 fear in the country, public speaking.
Well, so after I had messed up that poem in my classroom, I got home, I was in a really bad mood, and I just banged out a whole poem about it. And I guess I had, like, talked to a lot of my friends. I was like, yeah, like, you saw that, right? That was horrible. But everyone who I talked to was kind of just like, it wasn't that bad. Like, what are you talking about? And I think, like, what I would say to somebody else is, like, it's honestly never as bad as you think. Like, if you mess up at something, you're your own worst critic. And I think that you shouldn't let that stop you from trying something. Like, you shouldn't let the fear of failure stop you from, like, going for what you want, which is, like, honestly, if I had let myself be scared of failing, I probably never would have done LTAB, and honestly, it's been, like, one of the best experiences of my life.
Very good. Well said. Nicely done.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that's about as good as it gets. Caroline Tiernan. Who wants to jump in next? We got another individual one? Molly Liberty. Did you have practice today?
I had practice today earlier. I don't have it later now. It got.
You already had practice.
So basically, I'm a goalie, so I do, like, individual goalie training, and I already had my goalie training today, and my team practice got canceled because, like, half our team is sick and injured.
Oh.
So we're just trying to.
That's a bad time of year for that.
Playoffs. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, anyways, you're a busy girl, so thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
So, your individual poem. Take it away. What's it called?
It doesn't really have a title, actually.
Oh, untitled.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also just want to say, like, this poem kind of deals with some, like, heavy topics. Like, it deals with, like, abuse and suicide. So if anybody out there listening on the airwaves is uncomfortable with that, I just wanted to give you a heads up.
If your coach gives me the green light, then we're okay to do it.
No, she knows. She knows.
Okay.
She knows. Yeah,
Cool.
no, this is.
All
Yeah,
right.
I just don't want to make anybody else uncomfortable.
Well, thank you for that. That's very responsible. But go for it. This is Molly Liberty of the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam Team.
Girl meets boy. Girl needs boy. Boy meets girl. Boy takes girl. For a minute there, it was sunshine and roses. For a minute there, he let the love grow in. But a minute later, his patience grew thin. And a minute later, she was under his skin. But a minute ago, he wanted to be inside her skin. She thought she could run. She thought she could hide. But she knows she can't win. He's already won. We need a break, she said, which is just a euphemism for the euthanizing of their relationship. But when he grabbed her left hip and kissed her top lip, her shirt slipped off her shoulder and it was out of her grip. When he said he was stone cold sober, he was stoned out of his mind and out of his mind. But she said she don't mind. Salt in the rim, salt in the wound. But I love you, he crooned. She couldn't help but swoon. She thought he grew stronger. She thought he could fix her. But he ain't no doctor. Dr. Frankenstein, what a heartless crime, 'cause he ain't the monster, 'cause he made the monster. She was somebody's daughter, and now she's a goner. He was the product of a shotgun wedding, which may explain the shots of tequila or the handgun in the kitchen cabinet, but the pills she can't explain. She's Frankenstein's monster. She doesn't get a name, and how it's a shame they're one and the same. He's losing this game. Hold up. No, he's not losing, he's quitting, he's kicking her, he's kicking the bucket, and with her luck it won't be the end. Now she has to fend for herself, but she doesn't know herself, and when she broke it all down, she was downright broke. She couldn't make sense of the sense, so working the streets really became a job for her. She blew her career and swallowed it too. And when she was down on her knees, she thought she may as well pray, because maybe God can see what she couldn't today or yesterday or the other day, and it's hard to say how she got this way, because she tried to go to college, but she couldn't acknowledge the way he demanded demolished her heart and her class, so she was always late for class, so she failed her class and dropped out of class and fell in with class A drugs, and it wasn't until then that her parents could sense that the powder that's under her nose wasn't from a white picket fence. They told her to spread her wings and soar in the sky, but her wings were too sore to even leave the ground. She could still hear the sound of his voice, but he made his choice. She poured her soul out, but his love was all sold out, and his illicit behavior elicited her failure, so she grabbed the razor, and now no one can save her. Girl meets boy, girl becomes boy, boy destroys girl. Their love was too much, so they end up the same, but parallel lines, they never touch.
All right, Molly La Liberty there, and untitled poem. Molly, you have you're very good with the performance art of it as well.
Thank you.
Where does that come from? Is that just practice? You take lessons at that, or?
No, I mean, I don't know. I just have always kind of liked sharing and being public speaking and whatnot, and yeah. I'm kind of dramatic in all facets, so it just kind of worked out.
We can try radio someday, maybe, with the...
Maybe.
Well, very good. So, and did we do, Julia, you were not going to do an individual poem, right?
She can talk about it.
You want to talk about it? Okay. Why don't you guys switch off then? We'll do that for a minute or two. Julia Olson here, again, of the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team. So you're not going to actually do the poem, but what is the one you want to talk about?
So I just decided to not do this poem because for a while, like my freshman year, like I just had a really hard time, and poetry was like the way that I kind of express myself. I'm also like, I've been a theater kid since I was really little, so like there's that too, but I kind of was done playing a character and more so wanted to go for like what I was feeling. And my poem that I shared at competition was about a boy who was kind of in the same situation that I was freshman year, who ended up actually not making it because of his decisions. He committed suicide, and I was friendly with him. So I kind of wrote a poem, like it was sort of an ode to him, but not. It was just about like us as people, and yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't sure if I felt comfortable sharing it on the air. Not that I don't think that this is like a great environment, but I was kind of nervous to even bring the topic to LTAB when like a lot of people talk about like their very hard things that they've had to overcome that like they don't share anywhere else. So I was even nervous kind of sharing it in that environment, even though it was a great and supportive environment. But yeah, that's kind of my poem.
Gotcha. So you and Molly both hit on very intense topics. Coach Zabo, I take it gives you a lot of room to kind of go anywhere. Is that a lot of freedom in that regard? Yeah,
no, she definitely does. And like we were saying earlier with the how slam poets are like kind of stereotyped as, oh, like this sad and dreary thing, and that's true to some extent, but I mean, not necessarily. I mean, a lot of the most upbeat, happiest people I've ever met are poets.
Yes.
But also, I think people write because they have a lot to say. So yeah, Zabo never restricts us in that sense. We are able to write about whatever we're feeling, and even though at the competition itself, like there's restrictions, time restrictions, like swear word restrictions and things like that, like we're free to share in our environment our opinions. And I think all of the guests who have come and visited us at Poetry Soup would advocate for the same message. Actually, one of my personal favorite poets, he goes by the name of Harlem 125, came and visited us quite often, and he does this poem about the danger of silence, and I think I really relate to that. And he constantly just says shh throughout the poem, like that is such a dangerous sound. And I think our coach never restricts us or censors us in what we're writing.
Very cool. All right, well, there's the individual stuff. Everybody good? We cover everything? Everybody say what they wanted to say there?
The only thing I would add is...
Jump on right on in, Coach.
Really, one of the things that I usually ask the students, I mean all my students, but particularly the ones writing poetry, is, what matters to you? You've got 3 minutes. The world is going to listen.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? So I think a lot of the things that they came up with, were a result of that question.
Absolutely. Well, it's an impressive group. And what do you say we take our first break, 40 minutes in here, and when we get back, you guys got a little group poem that we're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll get set up for that because we're going to need to hear it's some movement involved. So we'll take a break in just a moment. We'll be back with more. The Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team, Caroline, Molly, Julia, Jack, and Coach Zabo in the house. So we will be back here in just a moment. We'll get the little group set up ready here. It's going to take some juggling on our part, but when we come back, we will have the group poem from the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team. Again, my name is Drew Moholland, and this is Afternoon Drive on Joppa Radio.
I'm not even going to count it off because it's just going to be the guitar that starts it off.
It's another Monday night at EJ's Lounge. Everything's alright. He's setting up underneath the TV set. Testing 1, 2, 3, the sound check. Is that loud enough? Hasn't learned a song in 20 years. He used to play for tips and now it's tips and a beer. Still every Monday night now he kicks it up with 3 chords and a cloud of dust. With 3 chords and a cloud of dust. The game is on above him. His wife says I am so proud of him. You know he even wrote a song in the summer of '69. Though it makes no sense and it's too damn long. God only knows what we were on. Still I shout it out every time. Calls the blues when he's singing flat. That was no mistake, my friends. Now that's what he calls jazz. Do it all before the night is done. Oh, oh. With 3 chords and a cloud of dust. With 3 chords and a cloud of dust. his jar for his pay. Smile and a nod, well, I guess he did okay. Now off they go in his old folks' wagon bus. With 3 chords and a cloud of dust. With 3 chords and a cloud of dust.
All right, welcome on back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. It has been a very exciting show here to this point. We have, as we adjust some camera work here, there you go. You can see the group behind me, the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team is behind me here. Tyler Neufeld, just back in his producer role here, back from school. He's very excited to be on summer break, but we've thrown him into the mix. He's got the roving camera here as the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team is ready to perform their group poem. So this should be fun, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Let's just go through the names one more time. This is Carolyn Tiernan, Molly LaLiberty, Julia Olson, and Jack Chambers. So that's the 4 of them here making up the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team. I am going to literally slide out of the way and let them do their thing here and enjoy. So give them 5 seconds and we'll be right with you here on Afternoon Drive. Again, the Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team. Hope you enjoy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
It is 7:15 and already we are being fed lies.
Little white lies.
Emphasis on white.
With liberty and justice for all.
For all. Math.
In geometry, we learn about ratios. We learn about parts of the whole, but we don't learn about the whole part of our country that goes to bed hungry.
1 out of 9 people starve every day worldwide.
1 out of 5 American children live below the federal poverty line.
While we sit mindlessly solving equations instead of mindfully solving problems.
We need to learn how to divide the food and the money to stop class division from dividing us deeper as a nation.
Spanish. Hablo español solo un poquito, enough just to get the grade, but I speak it only when I have to. Messing up the pronunciation,
Conjugation.
Connotation.
makes me afraid.
We get to pick and choose because we're so pampered.
Yet those learning English face a double standard.
We refuse to teach immigrants in their native tongue, yet expect them to fearlessly and flawlessly speak a forced language.
The school system makes it easy to forget that
Not all Americans dream in English.
Music. America, America, oh how you have failed me. Science. We learned about the human body.
We learn about the blood, heart, and lungs.
We learned that we're 99.5% the same in DNA.
So why don't you live in a world where it's okay to live your truth?
I mean, if we all have a bladder, why does it matter what bathroom we use?
History.
History.
We're taught that the 19th Amendment was a byproduct of World War I, as if it just happened, as if Alice Paul and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Ida B. Wells were all just background noise, as if the Seneca Falls Convention was a girls' night, and the Declaration of Sentiments was the invite list.
Because all we learn in history is only what the winners see.
We students, we don't get the full story, we get glossed over reality.
As if American history were written with a number 2 pencil, because we seem to erase every part we don't like.
English.
Take a poem, for example.
Then remove everything that makes it a poem.
Take out the rhythm and the rhymes.
Take out the alliteration and the repetition.
Take out the starts and the stops and the speeds and the slows.
Take out every wordplay, every metaphor, every form of figurative language.
That is what the school system has done to learning.
But still.
We know 263 million children in the world can't go to school at all.
We know girls in Pakistan have been shot for trying to go to school.
We understand that we enjoy great privilege.
But is it too much to ask that we taught how to use it?
Be taught how to share it.
Is it too much to ask that we be taught how to question rather than approach the world as if it were a multiple choice test with only one obvious answer?
Is it too much to ask that we abolish ACTs and SATs and PSATs and all the other euphemistic acronyms that all seem to spell out
Anxiety and hypocrisy.
Is it too much to ask that we be taught how to open doors instead of build walls?
Teach us not only how to be good workers, but good people.
What are all these facts worth without communication?
Teach us about the appropriation.
The gentrification.
Teach us about the voices silenced across the nation.
We demand that our education teach us how to live
with liberty
and justice
for all.
all.
Nicely done. All right, why don't you guys slide back over as we finish up? All right, well, how about that? Hello again. I'm Drew. That was more exciting. We should do that again. Yes, file back in there. We got a few more minutes, so we'll bring it home. If you want to go back into kind of the order you were before, that is good. Well, excellent job. That's fun. You guys, that must be a lot of work getting that all synchronized together, and a lot of moving parts there.
A lot of early morning rehearsals.
Oh, you need the microphone, don't you? There you go. Swing that back over there. Oh. There we go.
I wish you'd seen it like at its prime, like when we really had it like down, like because we were good when we all had it like memorized and stuff. I think a lot of us were a little bit rusty. It's been a couple months. I mean, I'm graduated now. I'm like a wash up. So
A wash up. How old are you?
I'm 18.
18. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Good job, Tyler. By the way, too. Tyler is still negotiating his way over there.
Also, I think a difference is when you're doing it on the radio. I mean, it was actually interesting for me to hear it and watch you work, because it's like any performer, that you take so much from the audience. So your best performances have been when you've had a big live audience.
Yeah. You guys weren't happy with just me and Coach as the audience? Is that what this was?
It's definitely more fun with like a big audience, and you get like big snaps when you say something. Like there were certain lines where we always knew, okay, there's gonna be a break here. Just wait to say your line because the audience is gonna do something. So that was obviously fun. Yeah. That made it better.
Wow, I'm so short. And also, something that was like a lot of like poetry people do is like at LTAB when they hold up the scores, like if you don't agree with the score, you like scream, you're like, listen to the poem, or like if you agree with something like in a poem, like you'll snap or like be like, like I feel you, like something like that, you know what I mean? It's like you're just kind of vibing like in the moment, and like because that's like kind of what Slam feeds off of, is the audience response. So yes, it was lovely to perform it for you, but like we know like that part where it's like not all Americans dream in English, that's like always got a like reaction out of everyone.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it is a little bit different, certainly. What's the biggest group you guys have played in front of?
Probably LTAB.
I think they're all like, they've all really been the same for LTAB, because it's only been twice or three. There was a third time that we did a fundraiser, but that wasn't even a big crowd. That was probably no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was just because we were in a big room.
It was probably about 40 people.
Yeah.
There's probably 40 people at LTAB.
But whatever.
Now you got to look at some of the disagreements that go on within the poetry group.
Oh yeah. We're performing again for the NEF next week.
For the NFL.
Maybe that'll be our biggest crowd. Yeah, also the NFL. See us at the Super Bowl.
New halftime show idea. Yeah, that'll be great. What's the? Why don't we hear from each one of you guys here? We just got a couple minutes left, so give me your. Let's end with Molly, because you're the senior. You can go last. So you're last.
Oh, I think.
Yes, we'll go left to right.
I will start.
What's been like the most rewarding thing? I guess you can answer it however you want, but that'll be kind of the question for all of you. What's the most rewarding thing about being a part of this?
I would say that like I feel like we're definitely at a time where there's a lot of change coming, like politically, and I feel like we're part of a generation that like really wants to see these changes happening. And I think that like a lot of people I know in school are just kind of like, oh my gosh, why do we have to learn this? Like we should be learning about blah 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 and blah blah blah. And I think that's like what really inspired our poem, like the things that we really want to be learning about, the things that we value in our society. And I think that it was really cool to be able to have a space to be able to express that and incorporate ideas that we're all really passionate about, because I think the poem each had a piece of like what each of us wanted to say. So it was really rewarding to be able to work together, come together as a group, and like kind of get a little bit of everyone's personality in there.
Cool. And that is Carolyn Tiernan, by the way. Excellent job with the individual poem as well as the group poem. So thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Jack Chambers, why don't you handle that same question there and answer
Caroline took all the good ones. I just have to say, like, getting the chance to speak your mind is so rewarding from this. And, like, obviously we've all written poems before, and we've been doing it for a little while before we did LTAB, but we didn't get a chance to like say it to people or let people hear what we had to say, which is kind of the same thing. But like, yeah, I guess just getting it out there as opposed to keeping it on that pen and paper is more rewarding.
Cool. Good, good. And let's go, Julia. Julia Olson. That was Jack Chambers, by the way. Thank you, Jack. Also gave me individual poem earlier.
Well, for me, Molly and I, like, both performed at our school. We had a National Day of Poetry, and this was a year ago, so it was my first time kind of speaking my mind in front of the class, and I thought that at that point in my life, I thought that was the most rewarding, was like this poet nirvana where you release everything. But I soon came to realize that actually a lot of kids who inspired me to write the poem, it was about Newburyport and its faults, but a lot of kids who inspired me to write the poem were coming up to me and saying, oh, I know exactly what you mean, and
That's cool.
I knew deep down that that wasn't the case. So going to LTAB, I think the most rewarding part for me was the second bout. I actually got emotional doing my individual poem, but it was like a very nice like release in a supporting community, and I felt kind of like at peace and good about myself in that poem, and it was good to be able to share that.
Very cool. All right, Julia Olson. And lastly, the senior of the group, Molly LaLiberty.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said, like the emotional piece, like that's been a really rewarding part. But for me, writing the group poem was probably my favorite part, because for a while I'd been trying to write a poem with the same kind of theme, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it on my own. And coming together, it seemed like there was just like direction for these lines that I'd thrown away. My teammates came up with these amazing lines. Like it was just so eye-opening to be able to really write what I wanted to say, and we were kind of just trying to get the message out that the school system isn't everything. They're not educating us to make a change in the world that needs to be made. Like, for example, we kind of touched on this in one of the lines I read, which was about the 19th Amendment. And in our school textbooks, there's only one paragraph about the fight for women's suffrage, and it gives all the credit to the male president, and it doesn't talk at all about all the women who were put in jail, who were force-fed, who were seen as outcasts in society. And I think poetry, being in this group, made me realize poetry is an outlet to be able to speak our voice and share those injustices that don't get talked about in school, that don't get talked about every day online. And it's been a really, really like amazing experience to be able to speak my mind on those type of things.
Very cool. And Molly LaLiberty, good luck with the lacrosse tournament.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Yes, absolutely. Coach Szabo, first of all, you must be very proud, and I'll let you take it home here.
I'm ridiculously proud of them. I totally adore them. But the one thing that none of them mentioned, which I just feel like I have to say as a teacher, is these 4 individuals worked really hard on those poems. They didn't just come out like that.
Yeah.
And there was some resistance in some cases to the hard work that was required. Would you say that's, yes? And that's kind of my job, you know. But it's an enormous pleasure to watch students. Are you still laughing at that?
We're just laughing. Oh, sorry. We're just laughing because we had a lot of disagreements. Like, for example, the bladder line was
10
a
seconds.
joke. It was a joke.
Yeah, but I told you it was really good. Okay. Anyway, they did work right. They didn't always agree with me. They didn't always take direction as charmingly, as receptively as I might have liked. But it was really fantastic to see students work really, really hard at something they really cared about.
Very cool. Well, thank you all so much. That was a blast.
Thank you for having us.
The Newburyport High School Poetry Slam team, you guys were great.
No.
These shows go by very quickly when I really didn't have to do too much work today. So thank you all very much. That was fantastic. Good luck with everything down the road, and we'll see you guys Thursday. That's it. That's the end of a wild show here on Joppa Radio. This has been Afternoon Drive. My name is Drew Moholland. We'll see you Thursday.